Hello everybody, welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. We come to you guys with some breaking news. The Islamic Republic of Iran is to attack the American bases in the Chagos Islands. President Trump is preparing to hit back by informing the US Air Force about the upcoming operation in Iran, and the Iranian people are taking advantage of the weakness of the IRGC by escalating their uprising. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much to cover today. Obviously, the Iranian regime desperate, losing left, right, and center. So they thought, what do we do? Let's target the Chagos Islands. Yeah, perfect opportunity to do this, to poke the bear. The UK and US bases are still there, obviously, and that's not going to change. In regards to the escalation, it is in fact that the ball is in the court of Iran. The Islamic Republic have a choice, a quite clear choice. Either surrender your nuclear program and your agenda to wipe out Israel off the map, or President Trump is coming for you. President Trump said, ideally I don't want to do this, but if you're going to push me, then obviously we're going to have to consider all options. So in this live stream, we're going to go through all the details that we have. We're going to get your reaction live as well. Welcome to the show, guys. So first things first, they are now going to be targeting the naval bases, the US naval bases on Diego Garcia, which is in the Chagos Island, part of the Chagos Islands. This base is currently hosting multiple B-2 bombers. Now, this simply means that the US has enough time, alongside their partners, the UK, to actually prepare the air defense and the naval defense in general in the Chagos Islands. The point is, President Trump gave an ultimatum to the Iranian regime. Said, you've got a few weeks to sort things out. He also sent them a letter, which they ignored. The Iranian regime have also now rejected any sort of negotiation with America. President Trump said, okay, well, the clock is ticking. It's up to you. If you don't, we're going to have to eliminate your nuclear capabilities. So the Iranian regime said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to spin the message saying the Americans want to attack us and we want to do self-defense. That's not really the case, obviously. This is the propaganda that the regime in Tehran has created. Meanwhile, President Trump obviously is continuing his warnings to the Islamic occupiers of Iran. Let's go to the president.
Iran is very high on my list of things to watch, and as you probably know, I sent them a letter just recently, and I said you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other, and we're going to either have to talk and talk it out, or very bad things are going to happen to Iran, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. My big preference, and I don't say this through strength or weakness, my big preference is we work it out with Iran. But if we don't work it out, bad things are going to happen to Iran.
It's interesting that the Iranian regime have chosen to choose the Chagos Islands as one of their threats, right? Considering that the Chinese Communist Party is now coming into play to own the Chagos Islands, right? That's the plan through the Mauritius. That simply means that the Iranian regime has the consent of Beijing. And we're going to talk about that because obviously China and Russia, from their perspective, they have to protect the Islamic occupiers. That's part of their strategy anyway. So some people thought that, well, Iran is going to make China angry. Not really, because this is also part of the CCP's plan. And we're going to explain that in a second. In regards to the IRGC themselves, the Navy commander has said no one can attack us and escape. I'm not really sure if the Americans were planning to escape, but okay. Even if we have to pursue them into the Gulf of Mexico, we will. Now, for the record, he said the Gulf of Mexico on purpose to trigger President Trump. Now, these guys are pretending to be the big dogs, right? They are claiming that, the Americans want to come and hit us and they're going to run away, but we're going to hunt them down. You don't even have proper missiles. Everything you have is so old school. And even your drones that you've given to Russia, they keep failing like idiots. I'm not really sure what these guys are thinking. You want to hunt down the Americans. Good luck with that. Now, in terms of the actual leadership, The Iranian regime and the president has rejected direct talks with obviously Trump and Americans. They have decided to say that what we're going to do, we're just going to ignore it and continue our nuclear program. President Pezeshkian also confirmed Iran's response was delivered via Oman as a third party, leaving only indirect talks on the table. Now, Trump has said that Iran must never obtain nuclear weapons as Tehran continues to enrich uranium to near weapons grade levels. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the Iranian regime are now using the Arab world as the proxy, or essentially the third party. The official route for diplomatic talks with the US and the West is usually Switzerland. Now, why is it that the Iranian regime are using countries like Oman? The point of this is that they want to be in control. They believe that even using Switzerland as a third party is basically a Western symbol. So they would rather use Oman and other countries in the Persian Gulf to send a message to the US. It's these tiny things that they're doing that they think they're being clever, including saying Gulf of Mexico. Oh, they're saying it because President Trump is now calling it the Gulf of America, right? Now, none of this actually matters in regard to how the Iranian regime is going to be responding, right? Now, we can go to a speech from a couple of days ago from the IRGC commander, who was, well, we got the subtitles, by the way, we got English subtitles for you guys, but it's trying to be robust. I'm not really sure it's convincing. Let's watch. By the way, this is about him also threatening Israel to wipe it out off the map.
دشمنان از وجود شما بسیجیان دریایی ترس دارند. راه فرار آنها را از طریق دریا مسدود خواهید کرد. چون الحاق شما انشاءالله با بسیج دریایی جهان اسلام استخوان‌های پوسیده صهیونیست ها را خرد خواهد کرد. بسیج دریایی سپاه این مردان دلاور و از جان گذشته و شجاع و ولایت مدار سواحل شمال جنوب کشور سوار بر قایق‌ها و شناورهای ایمان در رکاب رهبر و فرمانده شجاعمان هستند که دریا را برای صهیونیست‌ها به جهنم تبدیل کنند انشاءالله. و فرمان امامین انقلاب.
I was really expecting them to start chanting at the end of that, saying, yeah, we're going to wipe out the Zionists, all the Jews, inshallah. I thought they're going to go, ooh, Alan Snackbar. Nope. I clearly didn't read the room right, so or maybe they're all falling asleep because that guy is so boring. Anyway, so they're saying all that. Apparently they want to turn the water into fire. Not really sure. They're not Moses, and he didn't do fire, just split the sea. But the ambition aside from the Iranian regime, the uprising continues across the world, by the way, because you've got the Iranians inside Iran, you've got the Iranians outside Iran showing solidarity. They are taking advantage of the weakness of the IRGC. They're going around, obviously escalating the uprising. And the media is not really showing this, even in terms of the solidarity around the world. But we have to, because the media is not doing its job. Let's watch this. Now, meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party and the Kremlin obviously had to step up their game, because they have to find a way to use Iran as their proxy to oppose President Trump. Trump is not too happy right now with Putin and obviously President Xi, but the idea that these guys have, both when it comes to China and Russia, is that obviously with Trump's ultimatum that was delivered a couple of weeks ago on the 7th of March, we now have a couple of months deadline, right? Beijing and Moscow have simply been accelerating Iran's efforts to join the nuclear club. both the Russian side and the Chinese side are now pushing to ensure that the Iranian regime obtain nuclear as soon as possible. There was a meeting between the Iranians and the Chinese officials in Beijing, which was obviously followed by Ali Khamenei's rejection of Trump's warnings. This obviously does signal